Big O Tires is rolling out Black Friday deals now through December 8th. Get limited-time Black Friday savings on oil changes, brakes, car batteries, and more. Plus, save up to $190 on select Michelin and BF Goodrich tires when you use your Big O Tires card with no interest financing for 12 full months OAC. Don't miss Black Friday deals happening now through December 8th only at Big O Tires. For your nearest participating location, go to bigotires.com.
We took our show on the road Tuesday with a trip to Big O Tires in Wichita to record Facebook Live, now presented as the SportsBeat KC podcast. And we did some shuffling with the cast. Joining us was Taylor Eldridge from the Wichita Eagle. He covers Wichita State and the Wichita sports scene, and we leaned on him for our Wichita knowledge. He joins regulars Herbie Teope, Sam McDowell, and myself, Blair Kirchhoff. And of course, we talk Chiefs and their game on Sunday against the Oakland Raiders in a game for first place in the AFC West. We also talk turkey, that is Thanksgiving. We talk some high school football and some college basketball. Thanks to producer Leah Becerra for producing today's episode, and links to the stories can be found on kansascity.com. Taylor's work appears on kansas.com, and Chiefs coverage is also available on the Red Zone Extra app. We'll be back on Wednesday with another edition of SportsBeat KC, where we talk sports in Kansas City on a daily basis. We have taken our show on the road, but we're on the road every week, right? Usually in a different part of Kansas City.
You're not, actually, usually you are not on the road.
and it crosses state lines, too, either in Kansas or
Missouri. That's right, no. But we are really on the road. We're so on the road today, everybody had to set the alarm clock to get here. We're in Wichita, Kansas, at Big O Tires at 605 South Pause West Street, not Southwest Street, South Pause West Street in Wichita, near the airport. We're here to talk Chiefs. We're here to talk Chiefs with you. Send us your questions and your comments, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. We're going to talk about some other things today, too, including Wichita State, Thanksgiving. We got a lot of topics to cover here on the Thanksgiving edition of Red Zone Extra. Without further ado, let's introduce the esteemed panelists today, because we have some new blood here. But first, the old guys, far right, Herbie Teope. Say hi, Herbie.
Hello, old guys, huh?
Yep, old guys.
Okay. All right.
Sam McDowell is here. We missed you last week in Lee Summit, Sam.
I heard.
Yep, that was your home.
That was my hometown. I was actually pretty pleased, though, that Herbie gave me a shout out on the famous people from Lee Summit, because you guys failed to mention me.
Yes, we did. And we are grateful to have Taylor Eldridge, who covers the Wichita State Shockers and the Wichita sports scene for the Wichita Eagle, part of the McClatchy family. Taylor, welcome. Glad to have you here.
Yeah,
man.
Thanks so much for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this will be good. And look, you've been following the Chiefs your whole life. You're from here.
I am. I'm not like a huge Chiefs fan, but I play fantasy football, so this is where all my knowledge is coming from.
Which makes it greater than most people's knowledge of the Chiefs. And I think we'll find out it's probably greater than the combined knowledge of the Chiefs of any of us.
Wow.
So, all right, so Chiefs, Raiders, Sunday. Man, when this game started, or when this game was scheduled, and going after the Monday night game where the Chiefs defeated the Chargers, we looked at this as a showdown for the AFC West lead, and technically it still is, but it looks different now after the results last Sunday. Herbie, lead us off. Raiders just looked terrible on Sunday.
A truly disappointing loss to the New York Jets, 34-3. They had an opportunity to go to 7-4 and enter this Sunday's game against the Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium with identical records. Now, obviously, even with the identical records, the Chiefs would still hold the lead because they defeated them in week 2. But I don't think this game has lost that much luster, because they're only a game back. So even if you win that game, you set up a huge month of December with 4 games left. And for the Chiefs, 3 of those 5 games come against divisional opponents. You still have the Raiders, you still have the Broncos, and then you have the season finale against the Chargers. So it's going to be up to these 2 teams to take care of business.
All the Arrowhead too, right? All the division
Correct.
opponents are at Arrowhead. But the way that the Raiders lost, Sam, wouldn't that does take maybe a little bit off this, a little bit off the fastball?
I think it puts a lot more pressure on the Chiefs, because what we had thought would be a hot team coming into town, and The Raiders were a highly respected team more so than at the start of the season, and now I think all the pressure's on the Chiefs to win this game with what you saw. I mean, you can't win a game going to New York, and I recognize that you're traveling across 3 time zones, playing on the East Coast, and there's an extra element there that won't be in Kansas City, and certainly John Gruden's going to have a team fired up to play in Kansas City, but to me, based on what you saw a couple days ago, you're looking and saying the Chiefs have to win this game now.
I think there is some pressure. There's more pressure on the Chiefs to win this game. But as Herbie and I were talking about on the way down here today, look, with the game lead on the Raiders, the Chiefs, let's say the Chiefs win, and I haven't seen the line yet. I always look to you, Sam, for the line.
I actually have not seen the line yet for that game.
We will work that out as we go. I would think so.
It's 10.
Yeah. Okay.
10-point favorite?
That's pretty healthy.
Yeah, that is healthy.
It's the biggest line of the week.
Wow. That's significant.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Sam Darnold truther. He's on my fantasy team, so I was not surprised that they beat down the Raiders.
How bad is that team?
It's a 2-quarterback dynasty league, so there's the context. But I've been on Sam Darnold this whole year, so but yeah, just from my experiences, I have a lot of Chargers players. They are so frustrating to watch. The Raiders are struggling. The Broncos are struggling. I think the AFC West is not looking too great outside of obviously Kansas City now with Mahomes back. So I think 10 points, that sounds about right. I would take the Chiefs to cover that after watching what they, like you said, what kind of the performance they had last week against the Jets. I know I love Sam Darnold, but he should probably, when you lose 31 points to the Jets, that's not a good sign.
And Carr was yanked in that game.
Yeah.
I pulled him out of the game.
Yeah, in the third quarter after he threw the pick six, which was a great athletic play, by the way. I forgot who the Jet was who did that, but a one-handed interception that he tapped to himself. It was a great play. I think he was just trying to Gruden knew the game was lost at that point.
Yeah,
Wanted to get him out of there.
Yeah.
Cold weather. I think Gruden at that point was coaching for this week.
I think he was too.
So,
Yeah, don't get him hurt. Yeah.
Yep, don't get him hurt. And so, look, Chiefs and Raiders. This is round 2 for the teams this year. They met in week 2, and it was an amazing quarter for the Chiefs. Amazing quarter. In fact, I don't know if a quarterback has ever had a better quarter than Patrick Mahomes had in the second quarter of that game in Oakland. Chiefs were down 10-0 in that game, and at halftime they were up 28-10. What do you remember about that quarter, Sam?
I mean, they only scored in the one quarter.
That was it, right?
I actually had just come back after the press box. So I spent that first quarter in the black hole in Oakland, which was actually a pretty cool experience. But it was just bizarre because that 15 game time minutes I was in the black hole, it was all Raiders. I get back up and it's just like, well, what happened to this game? But his receivers made some plays too. I mean, Demarcus Robinson made a couple plays. They started taking advantage of the deep ball. Mecole Hardman, that was sort of our first glimpse of his speed.
Yeah.
And more so than the breakaway speed, I thought his burst to get past the safety on that deep ball. So those are probably the 2 things that stick out the most to me from that quarter.
And yet the Raiders. The Raiders lost their opener, right? So they were 0-2 after that.
No, they beat the
Chargers.
They beat Denver at home on Monday
That's
night.
right. That's right. Because the Raiders came into that game with a little bit of swag. I remember that. But they're 6-5 now. Aren't the Raiders ahead of where we thought they might? Taylor, the Raiders, aren't they a little bit ahead of where we thought they might be in the preseason?
I mean, if you watch Hard Knocks, then this is about what they thought they would be. But yeah, it is a little surprising, but I think it just goes back to AFC West. Someone else has to win. With the Chargers being such a disappointment this year, man, Philip Rivers, he's on his last legs. He's so frustrating to watch. I have Austin Eckler on my team, so Philip, throw more to him. They need to use that guy more. But some second team in the AFC West has to step up a little bit. So I think that's just kind of a result of that. And but I think they are probably ahead of where a lot of people gave them credit for, with John Gruden and just the way they looked coming into the season. I thought not very many people were very high on them. So I guess they have been, the surprise team in the division.
Look, we're going to get into this. Andy Reid against the AFC West. We always talk about it when the Chiefs prepare to play an AFC West team. Herbie, you looked it up. Is it 24-3?
24-3
since 2005. I think it's since the 05 season, or 15. I'm not 05, 15. because they started with a loss to the Broncos that year at Arrowhead, and then beat the Broncos in the Peyton Manning 4-interception game, which turned out to be the Broncos' Super Bowl winning season. But can you make a case that the Chiefs have already kind of wrecked the Chargers season with the Mexico City win, and then wrecked the Broncos season with the Thursday night win? Because the Broncos were feeling pretty good about themselves coming into that game, and they can kind of do the same to the Raiders on Sunday.
They absolutely can. And this is also an opportunity for Andy Reid to sweep the Raiders for a second consecutive year. And going back to your earlier point, are the Raiders ahead of where we thought they were? And I think that the answer to that is an emphatic yes. Over the past 2 seasons, Khalil Mack gone. The Antonio Brown debacle, anything like that for a lot of teams is enough to bring them down. But the fact that they are contending right now says a lot about what John Gruden is doing over there. They had that embarrassing loss against the Jets, but before that game, they had won 3 straight games against some pretty good teams there. So they are ahead of where they were, but Reid's record against the AFC West is the ultimate trump card. What he does against those teams, how he prepares the Chiefs to play the AFC West, because a lot of the players and most teams, their mantra is win the division. And Andy Reid certainly has the Chiefs in position to do that for, a 4th straight year to win the AFC West.
The biggest thing is, Oakland has a very easy schedule. Reminds me of when the Chiefs made the playoffs under Matt Castle, and to where they took advantage of having a last place schedule. The Raiders come in with a weak schedule this year, and this is really the only tough game remaining. They're in a 4-way tie right now. Obviously they're 1 game behind the division, but even outside the division, they're in a 4-way tie for the last playoff spot in the AFC.
Right.
And so if they win this game, they're in the driver's seat to make the playoffs this year. And I don't think any of us thought going into this year the Raiders were a playoff team.
Well, I didn't think so.
I wouldn't put them in the driver's seat, although the Chiefs have to play at New England the following week.
I think they're in the driver's seat to make the playoffs.
You're talking about as a wild card?
As a wild card.
Over the Bills, Steelers, and Colts.
The Bills are 8-3, but the Steelers, Colts, Raiders.
They're all 6-5. They're all 6-5 right
The
now.
Titans, Ryan Tannehill.
The Titans. Those 4 teams are 6-5. But when you look at the way the schedules play out in the back end, if the Raiders can get this game in Kansas City, there's not a lot of teams lining up on the back end of that schedule that could probably scare you if you're the Raiders.
How about a Raiders-Chiefs wild card round
Opener,
playoff game?
Yeah.
It could happen.
It could happen, yeah.
Way back in the day, I think it was '91. They played the final game of the regular season, and then 6 days later, they played in the playoff game at Arrowhead, the Todd Marinovich playoff game at Arrowhead. So, well, speaking of the Raiders and why they're 6-5 and been up and down. We kind of laughed at their draft when they had it. Remember Cleveland, the Clemson lineman?
Farrell.
Yeah, Farrell.
Colin Farrell.
I'm sorry, here I am botching the name. But Max Crosby, Jacobs, the running back.
Josh Jacobs.
Jacobs, they did pretty, as it turns out, after 11 weeks, you look at their draft, they got some guys. And the future's kind of looking pretty bright for them. If you believe in Derek Carr as their quarterback.
And they lost their first-round pick, too, in the opener against Denver.
Yeah.
And he, what's the safety's name? But he was playing lights out in that game, and he ended up playing with a significant injury the last quarter and a half, I think it was. I think a lot of people sort of criticized the Raiders this year because of what they saw last year just was a complete flop. And
4-12.
This year they bring in Mike Mayock, and I think their draft was a lot better than people gave him credit for. You mentioned Crosby. He had, 4 sacks 2 weeks ago in that game? So,
But Mayock also believes in building through the draft. Before he took the general manager position, he was the draft analyst for NFL Network. And the stockpiling of draft picks, those first-round picks with the trade of Khalil Mack, did set them up. And I like what he did with the picks. And Blair, you mentioned the draft they had this year. But the majority of that are players from Clemson and Alabama, teams that were in the College National Football Championship and know how to win. And that's the mentality that they're trying to instill there. I'm just amazed that they were able to overcome the Antonio Brown debacle. If you can cast aside that circus and still be competitive, because Brown was supposed to be their big play guy, and they lost him before the season even started, but they somehow rallied. And to me, that's impressive.
How about a thought on Derek Carr as the quarterback? I watched his post game after the Jets, and I thought it was pretty revealing and honest. And he talked about the young teammates that he has, but he also said, look, I've been around long enough that I need to start winning and need to get into a playoff. we need to get in playoff mode. He's got, 3 young kids, and he wants to do this now and not wait till he's, in year 14 or 15 to start being a playoff team. What do we think of Derek Carr as the Raiders quarterback? Is he can the Raiders get to where they want to go with Derek Carr?
Just inconsistent. I mean, that's the thing that stands out the most. I mean, when the year he got hurt, when he actually did lead the Raiders to the playoffs,
yeah.
He was fantastic. And ever since then, he hasn't really been the same quarterback. Now, he still has the tendency to get rid of the ball quickly, which is going to neutralize some of the things that the Chiefs have been doing, what we've seen the past month or so, as far as putting pressure on the quarterback. But to me, he's too inconsistent with his accuracy, and I don't know that he's got the arm to really go over the top. And without Antonio Brown, the Raiders don't really have the receivers to go over the top a lot against the Chiefs either.
And they got rid of Amari Cooper as well last year. I forgot to mention him. The one thing that jumps out to me about Derek Carr, he's not John Gruden's guy. Remember this past offseason leading up to the draft, the Raiders were linked to Kyler Murray a lot. And that I think with Carr, he's going to be looking over his shoulder for quite some time until Gruden just comes out and says, you are emphatically our guy going forward. But that's the reason why I'm not really sold on him as the Raiders quarterback of the future, because Gruden wasn't there when they drafted him. And Gruden likes to consider himself a quarterback guru. Wouldn't you want to have your own guy that you can groom? Kind of like the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I wonder if Carr was ever in the film room with Gruden.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I
we know Patrick Mahomes was.
Yeah, we do. Well, and while we're on the trends of the Chiefs, we should have a special graphic for Andy Reid off a bye.
Yeah.
We got to talk about that because it is remarkable. I know it's a worn out story, but this is the only time we can talk about it, right? Because they're coming off the bye. 17-3 in his career, and 4-2 as the Chiefs. Now, look, I remember the loss to the New York Giants a couple years ago, which was one of the worst.
One of the worst games he's had in his tenure.
Absolutely, 12-9 in overtime. Travis Kelce throws an interception.
To a bad team.
To a terrible. It was 6-3 Chiefs against the 1-8 Giants, and they lost that, which sort of burst the balloon a little bit about Andy Reid off a bye, but. Andy Reid off a bye, it's still a great record. Anybody would take it. Why is he so successful?
Well, there's one other, well, I guess before we have Taylor and Herbie get into that, there's one other stat, though, that's at play this week that makes it different. So there's 5 international games this year in the NFL. 4 of them are in London, and then obviously the Chiefs played in Mexico City a couple weeks ago. The other 4 have already been played, and those 8 teams all got a bye, just like the Chiefs and Chargers did coming out of the international game. None of those 8 teams won their next game.
Whoa.
And the average margin of defeat is like 25 points. I mean, they're getting killed. They're 0-8 and just getting blasted in all of these games. So the Chiefs and Chargers, I recognize they didn't go across all those time zones to get to London, but they had to encounter some travel that is different than the typical NFL road city. When you look at the length of it, they also played Monday night. These London games are Sunday morning. They're playing Monday night. They didn't get home till after the sun's up on Tuesday, have a team meeting. Andy Reid lets the players go their separate ways for 6 days. But that's an obstacle that's coming up this week, that 17-3 he hasn't faced in those other 20, I don't think.
So trends knocking heads this week, huh? I'd heard that this bye week success dates back to when Andy Reid was an assistant at Green Bay under Holmgren, and after a loss with the Packers coming up with a bye week, that Holmgren just basically told everybody get out of the complex. Don't want to see you for a few days. And after they came back for injuries, they were gone the rest of the week, and that made an impression on Andy Reid. Herbie, you cover the team on a daily basis. Is that what happened to the Chiefs last week? Did they just get out of the complex?
Yeah, absolutely. And what he typically does is they'll come back and they'll spend some time if they need spend time with Rick Burkholder, the athletic trainer. But then he absolutely tells them, get out of here. You guys know where I came in, Sam. It's been a while since I've mentioned the Saints, but I have to go back to this because Saints head coach Sean Payton called Andy Reid. Payton used to be bad at coming off of a bye. And so he looked around the league and he was like, why is Reid so successful? So Sean Payton actually called Andy Reid and said, what do I have to do? And Reid shared with him his philosophy of letting players go on the break. Get rested and come back and you're ready to start playing football again. Payton has done that over the last 4 or 5 years. The Saints are now also phenomenal coming off of a bye. So it's a formula that works. If you keep your players in on the bye week and you're making them attend meetings, et cetera, when they should be off, that's going to affect them. But if you give them the opportunity to cut loose and get rested and go spend quality time with your family, you're re-energized. So some teams do it.
Makes sense to me. Makes sense. Okay, a couple of little items. Let's before we kind of get to the next segment. How about an injury update, Herbie? We talked to Andy Reid yesterday. What's the latest on Tyreek Hill and Brian LeBurge wants to know about Damian Williams too and LaShawn McCoy.
Yeah, as far as Damian Williams is concerned, we know he suffered.
It was a rib, I think, right?
Yeah, it was a rib injury, and he left Week 11's game against the Chargers. Andy Reid did not give us an update on him, but he did mention with LaShawn McCoy, who left that game with a head injury, he was not in concussion protocol, and what that means is McCoy should be good to go this week. The big one, obviously, is Tyreek Hill. He suffered the hamstring injury after just 7 offensive snaps against the Chargers. Right hamstring injury. He went into the locker room and he came back out. Andy Reid told us yesterday he's optimistic that he should be all right for this week against the Raiders. And I think the biggest thing, the way I phrased that question to Reid when I asked it, was the fact that he stood on the sidelines for the rest of the game and didn't stay in the locker room is probably the best sign that this is minor.
Okay, good to know. And let's take a moment here and we'll as we do every week, we begin a segment called Where the Rubber Meets the Road, as our producer Beth gets that graphic going, where the rubber meets the road. This is where we identify a Chiefs player or players or that needs to play well, or we expect to play well in the upcoming game this week against the Raiders. 3:25 kickoff, by the way, at Arrowhead Stadium. Herbie, we'll start with you. Who needs to come up big for the Chiefs this week?
I'm going to say Reggie Ragland. Okay, we mentioned Josh Jacobs. We know the Raiders like to run the football. Jacobs had 99 yards rushing in that Week 2 matchup. We know the Chiefs' weakness. Whether they finally fix it during the bye remains to be seen, but it's against the run. The Raiders are going to look to run the football with Josh Jacobs. Ragland is a run-stuffing linebacker. He'll play more than 17 snaps than he did this past week, 2 weeks ago against the Chargers. Ragland is my guy.
All right, Sam McDowell, who you got?
I'm going to go with Sammy Watkins. And it's been a while since I think we've talked about him becoming a big factor in a game. But if Tyreek is not 100%, even if he is going to play, I think Watkins needs to have a bigger day. And the Raiders' pass defense is horrendous. I think they're 5th or 6th worst in the NFL. The Chiefs got him, like you mentioned, even if it was just in one quarter in Oakland, that they rallied up a chunk of those yardage. But I think the receivers are going to have a big day, and I think Watkins is going to have a better day than what we've seen for the past month out of him.
Taylor, you of fantasy football.
I have LaShawn McCoy. Too many fumbles. Too many fumbles.
It is too many fumbles.
-2 points.
-2 points, killer. I also drafted Darwin Thompson. What happened to him? What a waste of a pick.
Yeah, he has been. We all agree, those of us that were at training camp this year, that he was the MVP of training camp.
I was relying on you guys, and it's resulted in nothing.
It hasn't.
But yeah, my pick, like Herbie says, if they're going to stop the run, that's going to set them up in passing downs. I have an inside tip. Honey Badger, he's going to get a pick 6 this week.
That one was for you, Vahe. We miss you and Sam Mellinger this week.
God, if he does it this week, that would be unbelievable.
That would be great. I think one of the things the Raiders do well, and why Derek Carr's completion percentage is as high as it is, he gets rid of the ball quickly. I think the Chiefs' corners are going to have to play some press coverage, and so
for sure.
Charvarius Ward will be my guy to. They're going to need him to step up and play physical this week. So
pick 6, do you think?
I'm not going pick 6. Okay. Boy, I tell you what, Vahe almost had it though.
He did.
He was pretty excited.
He did.
We were all excited.
We almost all broke our cheering in the press box rule when he was 7 yards away from bringing that back.
Right. So we're at week. This is week 13?
Week 13.
And Vahe picked it 11 weeks, I think, projected the Tyrant.
Taylor's doing it for him.
This is the week. Yeah, this is the week.
Absolutely the week. All right, so we're going to come back later. We got a couple more where the rubber meets the road questions. But I thought that while we have Taylor here, we could take advantage of Taylor's knowledge of Wichita and the Shockers, the Wichita State Shockers, who start their holiday basketball tournament today. Is it 6 o'clock tip or so?
5 p.m.
5 p.m. tip in Cancun. They are playing the Frank Martin South Carolina Gamecocks. Wichita State off to a 5-0 start. I don't know if they've played. Have they played an RPI top 100 team yet?
No. I mean, they played 5 kind of outmatched opponents, all at Coke Arena. So they haven't really been tested. They've had a few games where they've struggled and had to kind of pull away late, but they really haven't been tested. South Carolina is going to be, the biggest team, the best team, the most athletic team they've faced. So yeah, we're going to find out a lot about, the Shockers tonight to see how they fare, and then even tomorrow, either Northern Iowa or West Virginia. So it would be kind of cool to see, WSU, defensive first team under Greg Marshall, play a defensive first team, Frank Martin, and then maybe, Huggy Bear on Wednesday. Right. So that would be 2 great defensive performances, I think.
And one thing that I learned or recalled from reading from a story of yours recently was Shockers had a difficult time finishing games last year, kind of closing out games. They lost leads late. This strikes me as a good opportunity for them to get rid of that habit of theirs.
Yeah, they're so young. Last year they were playing basically 5, 6 freshmen, so almost everyone last year was a first-year player. So even this year, you look at the Ken Palm experience, and they're still a bottom 20 team. So they're still super young, super inexperienced, but they do have at least some guys that have played college basketball this season. So they showed in that 5-game stretch, they had 2 of the opponents kind of push them late. So, I mean, they can kind of point to that as we're getting better at handling adversity. But, then Greg Marshall, I mean, he makes a fair point. He's like, well, we're playing, overmatched teams at Coke Arena. So that's about as good as it gets as far as conditions go. So how are they going to fare when it's a neutral court? They're going to have to generate their own excitement. They can't rely on the Coke Arena crowd. How are they going to handle adversity when they face it against South Carolina? Because this is a really, really good defensive team, really good offensive rebounding team too. So they're hard to keep off the glass, and they get after it on the defensive end. So there's for sure going to be some adversity today. So yeah, we're going to find out how the Shockers, they have 4 freshmen in the rotation. They've never played outside of Coke Arena before. This is their first road trip, so we'll find out a lot about how they handle that.
Thanksgiving week, also a week for college basketball tournaments for everybody, and all of the teams that we cover at the Star and the Eagle are playing. Missouri will face Oklahoma at Sprint Center tonight in the 3rd-place game of the Hall of Fame Classic. Kansas is in Maui, taking on BYU, which beat UCLA in the Maui Invitational. Kansas State lost a game to Pitt yesterday, in which Pitt went 1 of 16 on 3-pointers, and will play Bradley, I think, in the 3rd-place game in Fort Myers, Florida. Holiday week, Thanksgiving holiday week, is also something that's kind of near and dear to us. It's high school football state championship week in Kansas. It's semifinal week in Missouri. We've all covered state championship games. I love them in high school football. I want to read you the list. This is who's playing this week in Kansas. It's 6A, it's Derby Olathe North. In 5A, Wichita Northwest, which is a juggernaut, scored 80 last week. Yeah. 80 points. They're taking on Mill Valley. Andover Central against Bishop Miege in 4A. Miege, 4A, man. Those guys, they're rolling. Andale is in the 3A championship game, taking on Perry LeCompton. Norton and Nemaha Central, I hope I pronounced that right, in 2A. Smith Center against Centralia in 1A. 8-man Division I, get that in Kansas. Canton Galva, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, against St. Francis, and Osborne against Axtell in 8-man Division II. On the Missouri side, Staley in Class 5 taking on Jackson. These games are Saturday, I think.
Semifinals, yes. Saturday semifinals in Missouri.
Platte County is playing in the 4A semifinal, in Odessa in the Class 3 semifinal. So I love the high school state championship week. That's what, to me, Thanksgiving is all about. Sam, you've covered a whole lot of state championship games.
Missouri, I'm sure, has a little bit of different flavor. I sort of exited that whenever they exited whatever it was last, Edward Jones Dome in St. Louis, right. And they used to just play them back to back for 2 days. Now I think they play them at a couple different sites, Missouri State and Mizzou. But yeah, the emotion that kids have, it's so genuine. They're not getting paid to do this. They're doing it literally for the love of the game, most of them. So, and a lot of them, it's their last football game. No matter what they do, and it's win or lose, it's the last time they're going to put on a uniform. So there's just a lot of emotions that go into state championship week. That's pretty cool to witness.
It is. I absolutely love it. Taylor, if there was a Wichita ranking for high schools just in the metro area, who'd be number one?
It'd be Derby. They are a machine right now. They're kind of reminiscent of the Randy Dreiling era of Hutchinson. They just have it going right now in 6A, and they face probably the second and third, maybe second and fourth best teams the last 2 weeks, and they've gotten up 42-0, and I think it was like 49-14 against Topeka. So they're just unreal right now. Usually there's a pretty good team from the Sunflower or the Eastern Kansas League waiting for them in the 6A championship game, and I'm sure Olathe North is solid, but I don't think anyone is getting close to Derby this year. I think they're going to win by at least 21 points. That's just what they do. They have the machine going. I don't think anyone in Wichita could hang. I don't think anyone in Kansas could hang with Derby this year. They're too much talent on offense, and the defense is playing lights out right now. So, but Northwest, I think that could be an interesting game. Everyone kind of figured had penciled in Aquinas for that title game. So now that they're out, who knows? Northwest. I mean, if they're gonna win, it's gonna be 50, 60 points. So you could see a shootout there because they're gonna give up 50 or 60 points too.
So they're just
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right. One other Wichita topic that I wanted to ask you about is. I know this was pretty controversial when the news broke a few weeks ago, but is everybody past being mad at the Wind Surge, the name of the new Class AAA team?
I think it's calmed down some, but no, it's still not very popular. But I think after time, people will forget about it, and they'll start going to the games, and they'll just call them the Surge, and people will be happy with the new stadium, but. Yeah, I think it was just because the team hyped it up so much, the rollout of the name and the brand, and I actually really like the color scheme. They could do some pretty cool uniforms and sell some merchandise, but yeah, the name was not very popular. I would say about 80-20 seemed to be like about the consensus against it. Yeah.
They're the Miami Marlins AAA team, and what was the name of the previous team? The team that
Bingo, the Baby Cakes.
Yes.
Okay, the Wind Surge is an upgrade from the Baby Cakes. They were in New Orleans.
Right.
I don't know. Baby Cakes is a pretty. You're never gonna hear that.
Baby Cakes.
They had that baby on their logo, right?
Yeah, it was the most hideous looking mascot you'll ever see.
All right, we are going to return to our Rubber Meets the Road for a couple more questions. We don't need the graphic up for this, but just in fairness, Herbie and Sam have been prepped a little bit for this. Didn't want to take them completely off guard, and we mentioned it to Taylor when he got in here. So, fellas, it is Thanksgiving week. It's a holiday that universally loved. I love it for sure. It's just a great week. And my wife, who doesn't cook often, takes over the kitchen for like 2 days on Thanksgiving week and just wears herself out in the kitchen. And I help by not being in the kitchen. So what I want to know from each of you guys is most overrated food, Thanksgiving food. Just pick one item that we think is, just gets a little too much run here at the holidays. Herbie, as always, we start with you.
What about candy? No, I'm not candy. I'm not going candy corn. That's
corn?
not overrated. That's fantastic. Stuffing. I don't get stuffing. I can eat turkey without the stuffing. I'm like, no, don't put stuffing in there. So to me, I can do without stuffing.
Not even like sauce. Stuffing that includes sausage.
No. Just give me the turkey and the gravy, and I'm happy.
Wow, that's a minimalist Thanksgiving dinner. Turkey and gravy, you're good.
We are going to get into my thoughts on Thanksgiving and cooking, though, right?
Yes, I think this is a good time. I think you and I kind of share this.
To Blair's point, okay, here's my whole process on cooking, and for those watching, you can say, that's why you're single. No, why do you want to spend 8 to 10 hours in the kitchen, cooking, etc., to consume a meal in 20 minutes and then spend 2 to 3 hours cleaning? It makes zero sense to me. if you want a good Thanksgiving dinner, go to Boston Market, get those pre-cooked Thanksgiving meals, and you're good.
Are you getting paid for this?
I'm not getting paid for it, but that's what I do.
Is this SponCon right now?
All right, Sam, see if you can follow that spirit.
Yeah, first of all, I'm glad that Herbie said he's single, because all of our viewers are like, I knew it. This is probably not going this is not going to be popular, but I think Thanksgiving meal is the most overrated meal as a whole, and it starts at the top. I do not like turkey.
Oh my goodness, we've eliminated stuffing.
It is
and
the
turkey.
worst. It's the worst of the meats.
Worst of the meats.
So turkey is overrated.
My plate does not have a lot on it in Thanksgiving. In fact, in my family, my mom has gotten to where she doesn't. This last weekend, we had turkey for the first time in a long time, because we had gotten to where we were doing, kind of rotating it, pizza, Italian, different things, and it was mostly because it was probably less stressful for her not to hear me complain about having to eat turkey.
Taylor, please save this group.
Save Thanksgiving.
Save this thing. Yes,
That's
Taylor,
a lot of pressure.
save Thanksgiving for us, please.
I'm gonna go cranberry sauce. I don't have a lot of use for it.
Very reasonable answer.
There you go.
Cranberry sauce, great answer. And I'll offend people by adding pumpkin pie to that list.
Wow.
Listen, if it's only good enough to make once a year, then it's not good enough to make. So pumpkin pie off my table.
I will say, if you've got pumpkin and pecan, you should go with pecan.
Yeah.
But I don't mind pumpkin, though.
No, absolutely. I'm with you on that. All right, so we also want to know, in honor of our road trip here to lovely Wichita, what do you think of in terms of pop culture? And this could be anything. It could be a song, a movie, a famous person from here. When you think of Wichita, and I think the three of us will go first, and then we'll get Taylor's expertise on this. So, Wichita in pop culture, Herbie, what do you got?
I have two, actually. Wichita from Zombieland, Emma Stone's character.
There you go.
She took her name from Wichita, and then also, in the spirit of Thanksgiving, planes, trains, and automobiles.
Yes, that's a good
The
pick.
late, great John Candy says, Steve Martin's character says, you're telling me we're going to be stuck in Wichita, and then John Candy's character says, you are in Wichita. So yeah, those are my two pop culture references.
Okay, good ones. All right,
Yeah,
Sam.
those are good ones. The Seven Nation Army song, which I'm sure
White Stripes,
Taylor and
yeah.
anyone else who lives here is probably tired of hearing that reference. And then Sarah told us that Pizza Hut started here in Wichita.
She had to tell you that? You didn't know that?
I thought that there was a pizza chain that started here, but I wasn't sure which one it was.
White Castle started here too.
There
That's
we
what
go,
she
and
also
White
said.
Castle.
I had
The
no
subject
idea
matter
that one.
expert here.
That's right. I'm going, because I'm the by far senior member of this crew, Wichita is the birthplace of Hattie McDaniel from Gone with the
Yeah.
Wind, the maid, and Wichita lineman, of course, the great old song that I think Glenn Campbell made popular. All right, so we haven't mentioned athletes, and there's certainly some great athletes from Wichita. So Taylor, take us through. Taylor from Goddard High in Wichita State, Wichitan through and through. What have we missed? What should people know about your town?
That's you guys have a good list started. Barry Sanders, as far as
Yep.
athletes, Lynette Woodard, Jim Ryan, as far as running goes. There's actually been a lot of really cool athletes to come through here. And Bob Lutz, a former Wichita Eagle columnist, he's actually organizing an event, 150 for 150 for next summer, and he's going to try to get together 150 of the best high school athletes to come through Wichita. And it's going to be a super cool event. I think it's August at Coke Arena, so that'd be really cool. He's trying to get Barry Sanders to come back. He says he's got Lynette Woodard and Jim Ryan are both
cool.
supposed to be coming back. So yeah, a lot of really cool athletes to come from Wichita. Kirstie Alley,
the
that's another
actress?
one. She's at Shocker basketball games every now and then.
Great athlete.
But yeah, like Sam said, the Seven Nation Army song, they've kind of leaned into that. I think it's not, they don't think it's annoying. They play that all the time at WSU games.
Oh, interesting.
and-
Okay.
Yeah, so some opposing teams actually play it on the road too. I don't think they put it together that the Wichita lyric is in the song, but yeah, they started playing that before basketball games this year. So they've kind of leaned into that.
That's pretty cool. I bet that's a good scene when they do
And
that.
then Then there's a couple of pop culture references too, like Herbie. Herbie said that Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. That's a classic. That was like one of my dad's favorite movies. We watched it all the time growing up. So that's one of the best of John Candy for sure.
As journalists, we should also appreciate there's a Wichita reference in All the President's Men.
There is.
Yep.
That's a line straight out of Wichita.
You did some Googling before this.
I did not. I watched All the President's Men a lot.
Well, I couldn't let candy corn happen again. We just could not have a response like that. That was devastating to everybody.
To everybody.
Yeah, it really was.
Everybody.
It really was. I was also going to add that even though he did not grow up here, Gale Sayers was born in Wichita.
Oh,
so
was he? Okay.
Barry Sanders and Gale Sayers.
Wow.
That's a hell of a backfield.
It's a good 1-2 punch.
To be born in Wichita. So, listen, great town. Love coming here. We've come here for regionals, come here for Shockers games. My daughter ran in the state track meet at Cessna Stadium for 3 straight years. You talk about a great event. The Kansas State High School track meet.
It's the biggest one in the whole country.
In the 30,000-seat football stadium, and it's a fantastic couple of days here. A lot of state championships are played here. I remember they were playing state baseball at the same time on the Wichita State campus. So, look, we had a great time today. Taylor, it's great to see you. Glad you were able to come over here and join us. Herbie and Sam for making the drive down, along with Sarah and our producer Beth. We've been bringing you Chiefs talk on Red Zone Extra, Facebook Live, from the Big O Tires in Wichita, Kansas, and we will talk to you from a Big O Tires in the Kansas City area next week. Hey, it's Blair. Hey, we have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners, unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns we have to offer. And it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. For your convenience, your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. A lot of subscription services won't tell you that. They'll just sneak it on there. We just told you. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening.